Okay, so I'm going to talk about C-Lightning plugins. I know you had a Socratic seminar last week, but still I introduce C-Lightning architecture to then introduce how plugins actually work. And then I talk about the current state of plugins and what is yet to come. Finally, I end up by shilling them a bit. C-Lightning is a Lightning Network client and follows the Lightning Network specification. It's separated into multiple processes called daemons. There is master daemons and multiple sub-daemons which talk to each other using wire messages. These wire messages are defined into CSV files. So in the source directory there is a folder per subdaemon, and at the root of this folder there is the CSV files defining all the messages you can use to talk with this daemon. From these CSV files we auto-generate from wire and to wire helper functions. So yeah, to send a message you use the to wire, and the daemon receiving the message with the from wires to get the message. The master daemon is called Lightning D. We have three main subdaemons. Main because there are subdaemons which are always up. There's Gossip D, which handles all the gossip things and is the more complex, I think. There's Connect D, which handles all the connections. Either we want to connect to a peer or a peer want to connect to us, will pass through Connect D, and it handles the cryptographic handshake. And HSMD, which handles all the key management. Then we have three ephemeral subdaemons. We have Opening D, Channel D, Unchained D, which are pretty self-describing. So basically, when a peer connects to us, we have it passes through Connect D, does a cryptographic handshake. Connect D ends the peer to Opening D, which handles the connection, tries to gossip with the peer. Then once the peer, either the peer or us, want to found the channel, Opening D handles the opening, and once the founding is locked, so 3 or 6 confirmations, depends. Opening D will end the peer to Channel D, which handles all the channel operations with the peer until we close the channel. And at the shutdown complete message, Channel D will end the peer to Unchained D, which will handle on-chain resolution.
So what's the difference between the subdaemon and the ephemeral subdaemon?
The three at the bottom are ephemeral and are mainly per-peer daemons, and the three others are always up and not per-peer daemons. So there's one Gossip D, one yeah, grossly. Then in addition, Lightning D will handle RPC commands and the plugin interactions using JSON RPC messages. So we have Spay plugin, which is, so Lightning D will only expose low-level commands. For example, for paying, there is the send pay command which sends only one onion through a route, so only once. Pay with the command, it exposes a command called pay, which will under the get route operation to get the best route to the peer. Use send pay. If it fails, we'll try the second best route to resend pay, etc. etc. From channel same thing, only low level commands, so there is from channel start, from channel complete, and we use GX prepare to prepare a Bitcoin transaction. So it will, when we call from channel, the command exposed by the from channel plugin, it will connect to the peer, call from channel start to start the funding channel operation, call TX prepare to prepare the TX, the transaction, and get the TX ID out of this transaction, call from channel complete to get the commitment transaction signed from the peer, and then we'll broadcast the transactions with TX prepare because it has a commitment signed and can get back the fund in any case. And auto clean is a simple plugin which just has a timer and will clean invoices, for example, each n sequence with n set by the user. So
So those top ones are all plugins, are they? Pay is a plugin, right?
yeah, Pay is a plugin, Fun Channel is a plugin. They're all plugins. The command Pay existed before the plugin, but it has been moved to a plugin to keep only low-level commands into Lightning D. So we can think of Lightning D relies on subdaemons and talk with them with wire messages, and plugins rely on Lightning D and talk using JSON RPC request and command. But as of the last release, that's not true anymore since we introduced the BCLI plugins. So Lightning D now relies on the BCLI plugins to gather Bitcoin data information. And it's a plugin too. So let's see how plugins works, but first, what's the purpose? So with plugins, you can customize Lightning operations for key operations, like I got an HTLC. It will stop operations, ask the plugin what to do, then do what the plugin thought, or the channel just open or anything. You can use notifications, so it will, a channel just opens, it will just throw the notifications without asking the plugin what to do. And you can add new features, new RPC commands to Lightning. About shipped plugins, so these the four ones I just talked about, they are shipped with C-Lightning, and they are used to keep Lightning D as lightweight as possible. So we only expose crucial and low-level commands and keep all the logic, like Pay retrying routes, doing shadow routing, all in a plugin. So we have just Lightning Network logic into Lightning D. Lightning D starts plugins as subprocesses. In order to do that, we use a nice command from CCAN called pipe command array, which will under the fork, exec, and pipe. So we start the plugin as a child process, pipe its std in and standard input and standard output. So we'll send commands to its standard input and get the response to this command from its standard output. So basically, libraries for creating plugins do an IO loop, listen, do nothing until something arrives on standard input, treat the RPC command, and respond on standard output. The first command sent by Lightning D to a plugin is the get manifest request, which the plugin will respond with its manifest, all about it. If it wants to register options, startup options, so the type of the options, the descriptions, the name of the options. If it wants to expose new RPC methods, its subscriptions to notifications, to hook, feature bit registrations, which we will cover later, and either or not it's dynamic. You can start plugin using RPC with the plugin commands, so plugin start, plugin stop, plugin start to start a whole directory of plugins. Only if the plugin was signaled dynamic, being dynamic, but it's dynamic by default and will only be static if it needs to be started at startup, but it's rare. Like if it relies on options, for example, on startup options, it can be dynamic. But it can register options and being started at the command line, just the options won't be set. You can also use the plugins directory at the root of the Lightning directory, which is locating by default in home.lightning, which there is the HSM secret, the database too. So you can add a plugins directory, and all these plugins in this directory will be started with Lightning as startup, and it's recursive, so you can have multiple directory in the plugins directory at the depth of one. And you can use arguments to Lightning plugin and plugin directory. Yeah, and you can also use the plugins directory of the source directory, but it's a bit wild. Quickly, the API currently we have in hooks we have peer connected, so peer just connected. What should I do with it? Should I drop the connection? Should I continue? Channel, same with channel, open channel. HTFC accepted and HFC just came, so it sends you onion. It's either it's for us or nodes, and the plugins tells Lightning you what to do with this HFC. An invoice just been paid. Custom message is protocol message just came in, but Lightning doesn't know how to handle this message. So if a plugin registers this hook, Lightning will and all the wired protocol messages to this plugin. If Lightning receives a wired protocol message and moreover a plugin registers the custom message hook, it's likely that the plugin can handle the message. It allows to do protocol extensions with plugin. RPC command, the word one we were talking about just now, which take over any JSON RPC command sent to Lightning. And DB write, which is crucial and is a very singular one, because it will stop all operations on Lightning. Other ones are kind of synchronous because Lightning stop the current operations, for example for the channels or just for the peer management, but continues all other operations, while with the DB write hooks it will not continue any operations before the plugin's response. And if the plugin hours, too many things at a time. So to commit to the database, we created database transactions, then we commit to the database. So between the two, if a plugin registers the DB write hook, it will send what we are going to write to the database to the plugin. So the plugin can replicate the database, which is something crucial for Lightning Network clients. Same thing for notifications. Peer just connected, just deconnected, a channel just opened, we just forwarded payments, OSEN pay attempt just succeeded, OSEN pay attempt just failed, and we logged something as broken or unusual.
So just on that previous slide, so every time someone builds a plugin, do they generally need a new hook, or the existing hooks generally enough for someone to build?
It depends. It really depends. No, I don't know of plugins that required a new hook to be created, apart from the RPC command which we talked about.
And then these notifications,
Yeah.
these are what a plugin requires.
The notifications are sent by Lightning but does not require a response from the plugin. Lightning just sends the notifications and go on with the operations. And they can be useful for example, for UI, like an invoice just been paid, so the plugin can make a new icing to the user to tell the invoice has been paid. So it's useful for events-based application.
But these are notifications that are within Lightning D.
Yeah.
They're not connected to the hooks.
No, they're different, but there are shared operations between the two, because sometimes you just need the notifications and you will always respond to the hook with continue, continue, continue. So you can just register a notification, because currently hooks, you can just have one plugin, one hooks. So you don't need to reserve a hook for your plugins if it doesn't need to treat it really. So to illustrate the usage of hooks, I would like to talk about the GYBalance plugin by Christian Decker, which implements an idea from Ronnie Pickhart's So GYBalance is the idea of rebalancing the channels or channels just before forwarding an HLC, because our outgoing liquidity, we don't have enough outgoing liquidity on this channel. So which would solve, which is rational because we would earn more fees by forwarding successful payments. So what the plugin does is registers to the HLC accepted hook. Once an HLC comes in, if the HLC is not for a payment for us, we have to forward this HLC. It checks if the outgoing channels has enough liquidity, outgoing liquidity. If it doesn't, if it hasn't, it makes a circular payment to rebalance this channel. And so this will trigger another HTLC accepted hook, because this is effectively an HTLC for ourselves that we create. So we'll come back to the beginning. That's a payment for us. That's a rebalance we initiated. So we accept the payment, wait a second, and then we can successfully forward the HTLC, the first one. So without doing this, we will just fail the HTLC if we don't have enough outgoing liquidity. So it increases the success rate. And the implementation is pretty straightforward and is a good example of what we can do with the Lightning plugins. About new features and new RPC commands, Rebalance is the first Rebalance plugin by Gally Zoltan. It's simple and does exactly what you need. You have one channel which you have too much incoming liquidity, one other for which you have too much outgoing liquidity. You rebalance the two. It's under circular payments. It calculates how much should be rebalanced to rebalance the two channels. The Drain plugin by Michael Schmuck, which does rebalancing, but in another way. For example, you could have multiple chunks. You can divide the circular payments into multiple chunks and have multiple payments, so it will have a higher success rate. You could drain only 10% or X% of the channels, and it's useful, for example, to drain all the liquidity of a channel before closing it. So, and for the anecdotes, Michael found a bug while working on this plugin, a protocol bug which was about stuck HLCs, so if you heard about it. The summary plugin by Russell, which is a great example of why we can need a higher level language for some things. It will give a quick overview of your nodes, display it nicely. This is an example of the summary screen. Tell you how much you have outgoing bitcoins, how much it is in Bitcoin, how much it is in dollars, so it's an API, so it's quite nice to have Python to do this kind of things. For event-based applications, Ride the Lightning, which is a web interface to LND or C-Lightning. Use this for the C-Lightning part, the C-Lightning REST API by Schwab, which can be run as a plugins using C-Lightning JS. The AMQP Relay plugin by Mr. Ash or the ZMQ plugin by Jared, both listen to all the notifications by C-Lightning and will queue them, so that even if C-Lightning crashes, you don't lose any notification for web application, for example. There was an example like a demo to phone channel with hardware wallet by Justin Moon. Sparko, which is another way of seeing plugins. So currently, the actual stack of C-Lightning end user is you have C-Lightning, you have Tor, and you have Spark Wallet, which is a remote control to use your Lightning node with your phone. And Sparko by Flajas is just wrap Spark Wallet, and you put Sparko in your Lightning directory, and whenever you start C-Lightning, it will start Spark Wallet. So Spark Wallet effectively becomes an extension of C-Lightning, and you don't have to mind starting Spark Wallet, etc. So it doesn't interact with with C Lightning for Spark collectors via the RPC, but the plugin in itself is just a wrapper, which is useful. A lot of other plugins, great plugins at Lightning D plugins on GitHub, and pull requests are welcome if you want to work on a little plugins. And this is a community curated list of plugins. So there are a lot more other plugins which I may have forgot or anything. So just now I talked about the BCLI plugins together, Bitcoin Datas. So as of the last release, we externalized the gathering of Bitcoin data and standardized the interface to get these data. So we have 5 calls at the moment, and it's not documented because it will change before the next release. But it's cool because before this, C Lightning would start Bitcoin CLI. Each time it wants to do a request for Bitcoin data, it will start Bitcoin CLI to each Bitcoin D and will grab the data out of the output of Bitcoin CLI's process. So it still does, but as a plugin. So you can replace it with another thing which is lighter or anything. For example, I made for the pull request, I made a demo with an Explorer instance. Explorer is the backend of blockstream.info, which is open source and anyone can run. So I have an Explorer instance running, and I could just externalize all the Bitcoin data gathering on my own Explorer instance with 80 lines of Python to just hit an API. So, and I don't need Bitcoin D anymore. And in parallel of this, there was work to compile C Lightning on ARM, so we can run on Android. And my weekend project is now running Lightning D, my own Lightning node on my Android phone, without needing to use a remote control to my node, and just externalizing the EV part, which is the Bitcoin D management. We can be at home, so my remote is just Bitcoin D node, and not anymore the whole Lightning node. And you can do other things, and that may be a good idea for a new plugin, a new Bitcoin backend for your favorite Bitcoin implementation. Future bit registrations, which I talked about quickly just now. For the last release, Christian Decker contributed the possibility for plugins to register new feature bits, which can be advertised in node announcement, which is when a node joins the network, at init, when you connect with a node, or in invoices. It allows plugin to effectively create new protocol extensions which are not part of the Lightning Network spec, without having to modify the implementation itself. So just with Python you could create new protocol on top of Lightning using the Lightning Network message. So, and along with that, contributed the same custom message, the custom message hook which I talked about, which is used by the recipient of the message, and send on. The hook chaining, which is part of the last release at the last minute too, just for HTLC accepted. So I just thought that there is one plugin, one hook. That's not true anymore just for HTLC accepted as of the last release. So you can, for example, you can use both the noise plugin and the GYBalance plugin at the same time while you couldn't with 0.8.0, because it will ask each plugin if it wants to continue before continuing to publish. There are plugin libraries in many languages, so pick your favorite ones. There's Python, JavaScript, Go, C, C++, Rust, which is not in the main document, I think.
Can you talk a bit about what needed to be built so that plugins could be built in these languages? So there's like PyLightning for Python.
PyLightning
for the other languages, right?
PyLightning. This one is called C Lightning JS. So, and for Go, actually there are two of them. There's one by Fairjaf and one by Lisa Nigert. And C, lib plugin by Rusty Russell, which was made in the same time plugins were created for C Lightning. So we use the C library for all the shipped plugin with C Lightning. Pay is a C plugin, Font Channel, BCLI, and AutoClean. C++ is I called it Lightning CPP, but nobody ever used it, I think. And the Rust one, I don't know any plugins in Rust, but I heard last month about it. It was newly created. So.
And what are those libraries actually doing? Like what's PyLightning doing?
PyLightning is actually the more complex one because with the C one, but it really just waits for something on standard inputs. It's an I/O loop. You wait for standard inputs request, and once you have a request, it will call the specified functions, get the results out of this function, and write the results and its standard output. And Lightning D will read its standard output and interpret the result. If we crash, if the plugin responds badly. So, last slide, the shilling slide. I think from a technical standpoint, plugins are really great because it allows one to tweak with Lightning Network from a protocol standpoint or with implementation without diving into the complexity of an implementation or the code needed for the implementation, and not only for the protocol. So the protocol extensions with FeatureBit is a good example, GYBalance also. And as a consequence, and from my own experience in France, they're great from community standpoint because we saw a lot of developers attracted by shitcoins because it was simple. It was great. You can do great things with this shitcoin. It's simple to develop. While with Bitcoin, it's harsh to develop with Bitcoin. You need Bitcoin D, you need this. And as much as I think Lightning Network will bring new users to Bitcoin, I think initiatives such as C Lightning plugins can bring these developers back to Bitcoin. Thank you. Question?
Yeah, I'd like to ask about this project you mentioned that you would remotely connect to a Bitcoin full node. What would be the communication channel? So I presume it would be Bitcoin RPC communication, right?
How I did that was I had Explorer running on my node. So and C Lightning would just made HTTPS request to the API. That was really basic. So just as a demonstration purpose.
Explorer,
yeah, Explorer the open source backend of Luxembourg, which was I think the best API I know to get Bitcoin data. So yeah, there are a few quirks, like I can't get a wall X block from the API from Explorer, so I put an issue there to get this functionality. But we could do you could code your own API, for example in Python, on your server side where you are your Bitcoin D running, and you could have your plugin on your phone with your C Lightning, which will hit your Bitcoin D at home through your own custom API, for example. So without the need of a Bitcoin full node. So I know there is a AB core on Android, but it's easy.
And I know that so this software Explorer is the fork of just Electron server, right? But is the API extended a lot from that?
Actually, I didn't look into the API a lot, but I had too much backward. Yeah, I could get chain info. So for get chain info, you need the chain. It's called a startup to are we on the good chain? Are we still thinking? Is this IBD? we could get fee rates, which Explorer is implements custom fee rates. Actually, it doesn't gather fee rate from Bitcoin. And I couldn't get a raw block. So before this, we used get block count, get block hash, get block, and I can't get the block as eggs on Explorer, but I get UFTX out and I can send transactions.
Yeah, so it's quite similar to what I know what the Electron server in Rust does.
Yeah,
but that's
it's based on ElectRS actually.
yes, yes. It's just much lower. So you can run ElectRS easily on like low-end thing, whereas Explorer needs like server architecture more than 1 terabyte just for itself.
Yeah. Explorer is the open source block explorer, right?
Yes, the blockchain blockstream.info backend.
Yeah, so, but I don't know much about ElectRS, but it exposes an API you can hit, like Explorer?
I'm not sure, that's what I'm asking.
Ah, yeah, I'm not sure either.
Okay.
Any other questions? No?
No?
I have a lot.
Yeah?
Okay, so we were talking a bit before we started about the RPC command hook. So that wasn't part of the presentation. Do you want to talk a bit about that and I suppose the dangers of merging hooks into C Lightning that cause problems later on down the line?
Actually, to be honest, I'm not very proud of the RPC command hook because Rusty had to fix it about 3 times after, because he tried to use it and oh, there is back. So yeah, I don't know.
But it's a bad idea, or it was just incorrectly implemented?
It was incorrectly implemented by me. Okay,
that's fine. But it could be correctly implemented, and so it's not necessarily a bad idea.
No, it is correctly implemented.
Yes. So it's correctly implemented. It's a bad idea, though. Is that what you're saying?
Actually, I just saw a use case for the wallet locking we were talking about, but no, I don't know but many use cases to take over any RPC commands. So it's there, but I don't know any plugins that actually use it.
Okay. And then you have a plugin manager. You're maintaining a plugin manager currently.
Yeah, it's still in development, but it's the Lightning plugins and other plugin repository by a member of the community. I think I added Conscott's plugins repository and Renipic Art ones, so it will get the plugins, get them in the plugins directory in the Lightning dir, and start them dynamically if it can. But the hard part is you need plugins to be executable in order for Lightning D to start them, because the exec call needs either a binary or needs an executable file, so a binary or a script with a shebang. But finding from the plugins, from the repo you just downloaded, which one is the main file you need Lightning D to start is hard, because if you start the wrong one, it could happen some bad things. So yeah, but I think I solved it using GitHub API exposed executable files. So I just use the GitHub API, and I had other quirks, but yeah, it works.
Because there's going to be a challenge, like as the number of plugins continues to increase and some of them start to do similar things and there's overlap in scope, like it's going to need, I don't know whether it be the C Lightning team or you or a mixture of both to, I suppose, curate or recommend which plugins to use for which purposes, right?
Yeah, I was thinking of just restricting the source to download plugins just from the curated lists. So and we choose which one to merge to this repo, and you can download them directly from CLI. It's called the plugin is called Reckless, if you're interested.
And then are there downsides to plugins in your opinion? Like what are the downsides? Why isn't there a plugin infrastructure around, say, Bitcoin Core?
Can you repeat about Bitcoin Core?
Why can't you build plugins for Bitcoin Core? Why aren't there PRs to merge hooks into Bitcoin Core?
I honestly don't know, but that's not that hard actually. It was I can think of 2 or 3 PRs from Christian Decker and Rusty back then when they implemented plugins, but it's not really hard. You just need to start processing, and you need some code to take over if a hook registers, to take over some part of the code. But I think Bitcoin Core is already enough complicated enough to not add another layer of complexity. I think the goal of the Bitcoin Core team is just to decrease complexity of the code and not add new complex things. But I might be wrong.
And then I think Rusty said that he plans, or the C Lightning team plan to move as much of the functionality within the core to plugins.
Yeah.
Like, can that be taken too far? Do you actually want some core functionality to stay within that core rather than pushing everything to plugins and that core basically having next to nothing in it?
Pay and send pay is a good example.
Why is that pushed to a plugin rather than just kept in the core?
Because it could be, and it's great to have all the logic, the pay logic outside of the core. The pay plugin is pretty big actually. I think it's 1,000 or 2,000 lines. So it implements shadow routings. So that's another layer of complexity which doesn't need to be in the core. It needs to be in the implementations, but not in the core, I think.
Do you have like a feature or like a wish list? What people, or do you think are the most important things to work on, or people already started to kind of prioritize?
For plugins?
Yeah, for C Lightning, that is.
What is yeah. You remind me something I forgot to talk about. Christian Decker is actively working on the database replication plugin. So it registered and it modified the hook to fit its needs, and we'll soon have a plugin, I think. I won't talk for him, but I think we'll soon have a plugin to replicate databases, and we could...
It's a backup function, is it?
Yeah, a backup function. But backup is, I think, not a great term because, yeah, it replicates the database, but it's always in sync. And
it's only the latest state is backed up,
that's
right?
why I meant.
Yeah. So it's not like the static channel backup kind of things.
No, yeah. Actually, that's why it's hard. So it had to add an index to the hook. So this is the call number 7 to GYBalance. Here is what we are going to write, and because we call the hook just before committing to the database, so maybe we suffered a crash before committing to the database. Maybe we couldn't commit to the database. Maybe so. With this index, we could, if the plugin got called with the 7.1, and if it got called another time with the 7.1, the index increased after the committing. So it's always at the latest state or the latest state -1. So it knows at which state it is.
In terms of backup in C Lightning, all you have is this database, right? There is no seed or anything which you could kind of. Well, is there a seed in C Lightning?
Yeah, there's a seed in HSM secret, but you can just if you're back at the seed, you just recover your unchained funds, and you need the not with the option static remote key, which is great because you don't need you can recover some channels after a unilateral close from the other pair, because before option static remote key, the public key you would use as the two remote outputs and the commitment transactions of your peer was derived from a data that you could lose that was stored in your database. You couldn't deterministically rederive this data from the HSM. While with option static remote key, we can derive this data, these two remote output public key from the HSM secret, and we have a tool in C-Lightning, which is called HSM tool, which allows to derive the private keys to try for funds that after a unilateral close, and that's great because I suffered the data loss personally, and I could use all the channels which had the option statically enabled. I could recover the funds, but not the other one.
Okay, so when was this introduced? Do you know the version?
I don't recall exactly, but it was late 2019, but I don't know exactly. We are going to add an FAQ and it's in.
So I don't know if this is still relevant. Lisa said on her C-Lightning tweet storm that the plugins aren't in place yet so that you can write third-party apps for C-Lightning. So like in comparison to LND, which has standardized HTTP accessible interface, macaroons, it had a bunch of stuff shipped right from the beginning so that you could build third-party apps relatively easily, and I think Lisa said those plugins haven't been built yet.
I think Ride Lightning is a good example of this because it's typically in a third-party app which uses information from C-Lightning. Even if C-Lightning REST API needs some more features like to react, it currently doesn't react to notifications, but it could and could make a better UI.
So it's not challenging to build a third-party app currently with the plugins that have been built and C-Lightning as it currently stands.
No, I think it's okay, but maybe I didn't understand the question.
Well, the C-REST API is used by Zeus wallet as well, which is just started to kind of use C-Lightning as well, so not only able to connect to LND, but C-Lightning too. And obviously you have RTL.
Excuse me, can you repeat?
Do you know the Zeus?
Yeah, Zeus. I think Zeus can be used with C-Lightning because you tried?
But yes.
Great.
I didn't try because I use LND, but I use Zeus, and I know that it can connect to C-Lightning apps, which are run by, for example, BTC Pay Server. But they are using the Suheb kind of C-REST plugin as well, so it's the same base.
I suppose, I don't know. I haven't tried building anything, but just like having to see which plugins you'd need to be able to build that third-party app, rather than like having a collection of plugins there. I don't know.
Okay, I understand. Yeah, you need a higher level API to build the implications.
Maybe. Yeah. I don't know. I'm just thinking upsides, downsides. Any other questions?
Well, it's just kind of an interesting thing, and apart from backups, another kind of security-related thing is to kind of, now we know that we can fund channels with a plugin from a hardware wallet. I presume, can we close channels to a custom address here?
You can use the upfront shutdown. Upfront shutdown script pub key, which will, if there is a mutual clause, it will close to the given script pub key, and the script pub key can be a pay to witness public key hash derived from an HSM, which can be an algorithm.
Not in a case of an unilateral close.
Yes, it is just the two remote outputs. It's good if you have the HSM secret also on your, yeah, but no, you need the HSM secret on your node. So.
Yeah.
No, it's derived from the node. Actually.
Because I just find very exciting to start to play a bit with the cold card wallet HSM mode and this CK bunker.
Yeah.
I mean, where there is, it opens a lot of possibility to kind of trigger hardware wallet and externalize this HSM bit into a secure elemental kind of just offline thing. And I mean, it's not there yet, but
yeah, it's not there, but it's hard because it's hard.
Yeah, with the interactivity of Lightning with the peers, it does get more complicated. So
yeah, you need to derive keys anyway, so yeah. I forgot what.
Okay, thank you.
Another question we had from Socratic last week was, can you convert from LND to C Lightning without closing the channel? Could you build a C Lightning plugin that would transfer your LND channel or LND node to a C Lightning node?
You can't currently, but I'm looking forward to changing the way, because we derive the keys. We don't use a standard derivation path on C Lightning, and actually there is a fix me in the code which has been here forever, which says we should really standard the path from the HSM to derive like LND does, so we can use the same seed generator or mnemonic generator for instance LND, and we can convert. But yeah, we need to change the derivation path. So for backward compatibility, we need to do something ugly like adding a padding, so we can recognize this is an old HSM secret or a new one. But it needs to be done, and I think it will be done.
As a plugin?
No, we need to change the derivation path of the HSM secret, which is at the root of the
But once that's done, you would be able to write a plugin? That's the only thing holding up that being built as a plugin?
I think you will need to restart C Lightning, and also I'm not sure because of the database. I don't know much about the database, that's more the Christian Decker part. So, but I don't know if it will how it will interact with our database.
So is the derivation path completely like a custom thing, or does it have a name like LND uses the A as Z?
No, I don't recall the path, but it doesn't. We do it house-made.
Okay, yeah, like DIY.
Okay, last question. What are you planning to work on now? Who do you work for? What are you working on?
This, changing the free rate, the logic, breaking the APIs, that's why we didn't document it. The last release, I plan just to work on the HSM secrets derivation. And and one thing I'm really looking forward to for plugins is the integrations of join markets, coin joins. We need join market to be able to coin join, to use native SegWit coin joins, and then we will be able to front channel from coin joins. That's pretty cool.
But is your work being sponsored, or who are you working for? Are you just independent?
No, I founded a society, and I work a little bit at my society, and I work on my spare time.
Why join market though? Why
because
join market and not other ones?
Because we need to call we need to not broadcast the transactions before starting front channel complete. So we need to call front channel start, so to begin interactions with the peer, to create and then we need to create the funding transaction, but not broadcast it, call from channel complete, get the commitment transactions which commits to the TXID, and then broadcast the transactions. So how I think we will do with another wallet would be just send to this address, but we can't just send to this address, we need the TXID, and since join market is in Python, I thought I could add something to don't broadcast the commitment and call from channel start just before.
Yeah, it already has this communication, kind of this IRC communication method going, so you can just implement beat that, I guess.
Yeah, I think yeah, I could just that's something I thought about 1 week ago, so that's half baked, but I think I could just re-implement the for example send payments from join market scripts as the Lightning CLI call, which would create transactions, and I think that the taker broadcasts the transactions in join markets, so I would hold the broadcasting until I call from channel start, but I'm not sure. So, but that would be cool.
Very interesting.
Any other question? No?
Cool.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.